Hey Rick, that's a fun story because I invested with Peak in your company, AG5, right? And that's a fun story how we met each other. I mean, normally investors and founders meet like events like this, right? Or they send out emails, etc. But we met differently.
Yeah, it was. We met in Greece, and the way it went was really funny in the sense of that we went sailing, and it was group sailing. So there were 10 boats, and every family had its own boat, and you don't know each other. So on Sunday evening, we got all introduced, and I also shook hands with Johan. And our children start playing together on Sunday, and then we went sailing. And on Monday, children start playing again, and we start drinking beer. Tuesday, same, happened again. And then on Wednesday evening, he asked me, Rick, what are you doing? And I thought, okay, this guy, probably musician or whatever, but he doesn't know anything about software. So I do a pitch, but I do my summer holiday pitch, very short, but I always like to talk about my company, of course. So I did a really short, intensive what I told about my company. And I asked him, okay, Johan, what you do? And he said that he worked, or he had a VC, software VC, and I said, okay, what's the name? He said Peak, and then I said, hey, Peak, I know someone at Peak. And he asked me, okay, who do you know? I said, yeah, his name is Johan. And he said, do you mean Johan van Mil? I said, yeah, that's the guy I know. He said, that's me. And then he said, how do we know each other? I said, in COVID, we had some LinkedIn connection, and so we never saw each other live, and I never recognized him on that holiday. So that was the beginning of our journey.
Indeed. And I will slide, by the way, behind me some slides, share some slides, right, with some learnings, I think, from the funding path that Rick had. I know, Rick, we spend a lot of time, especially because we got to know each other personally, right, on the doubt that you, as a founder, had in following the VC path. Because as a founder, you can bootstrap your company, stay fully on yourself, but you can also go for the VC path, which is a completely different route. Can you share perhaps what your thinking was and also what the doubt was that you had?
Yeah, we were bootstrapped at that time. We were growing pretty fast. We could fund ourselves pretty well. So why should I take on money from VCs if we can do it by ourselves? There was not a lot of competition in the market. So I felt, I know if I take this direction with the VC, it gives me stomach pain in the sense of, oh my God, they will take control and they will want to sit on my steering wheel. So why should I do that? And there was only one reason that I thought, okay, if I do it, it's because I know if I get 1 or 2 million, I know exactly where to spend it, because the market that we were in, I know if we put more money into that, we will grow faster. So that was the whole time in my mind. If I take the money, we will go faster and we can do it, but it's a different road, or we don't do it and we grow slower, but I am then the person in control. And after, I think, 4 or 5 months, also talking to Johan multiple times, I thought, okay, let's do it. Let's go that direction. I knew it's a different direction, but let's take that market. And I really had to, I know his children and his wife, so I thought, okay, he's not going to screw me, and let's take this road with AG5.
Yeah, we did a lot of walks these days, right?
Yeah, we did a lot of walks. But Johan, we signed the agreement in May. You put 1.2 million in our company.
Yeah.
And what did you do then with us?
Yeah, I think we did a few things. By the way, Thijs, my colleague, is also here in the audience. He did the most of the work, so big compliment, Thijs, for him. But I think we helped, especially Rick, because I think one thing that AG5 had to deal with was that you are in the skills space, the skills management place, and it's a pretty broad space. So how to narrow and how to make your story stronger, not only to investors, but also to potential employees, but also to your clients, right? So I think we spent some time on that. Secondly, as all bootstrap companies, I mean, Thijs knows. Also, I also have some experience. Financially, it's not, let's say, the most clear company. So we spent some time on getting the financials straight. You also had an existing business, the fireworkers, where you helped that to fund the company with. So we also carved that out, put that into a separate entity, so that the company became ready for also a next round of funding. We hired some, let's say, some people also to strengthen the team, because of course with 2 million euro in, you also have another pace in growth. And I think at that time we said we put a very clear deadline in, right? So we planned to raise the next round of funding the first half year of 24.
Yeah, and that was very interesting. So we said, okay, we're going to do a round this year. But you sent me, then you said you have to go to SaaStock. Why did you say that to me?
Yeah, because...
It was last year.
Yeah, last year. Because there was a few things which were happening then. It's one, indeed, the changes that we did, that you did within AG5, really worked out really well, also in terms of growth, also in terms of net revenue retention, also in terms of, let's say, potential from the market. To give you a little bit of idea, when we were both on that sailboat in Greece, at that moment when I asked Rick what he was doing, he was every morning, he was behind his phone answering inbound leads from his clients, right? And that's why I was wondering, what is this guy doing? Every morning I was drinking a cup of coffee, getting awake, etc. It was always very late, and you were working every morning. So I realized there was something happening there, and I think that in that period of time it really speed up. But what also happened in that market, and that was indeed, let's say, roughly 1.5 years ago now, or sorry, September a year ago, is that the market changed. I think we all know that the funding climate changed, the stock market went down, especially for tech companies, but also investors start more pulling back from deals, etc. So we had on the one hand a very promising company, growing very steep, and on the other hand, we had a lot of insecurity in the market. And I was a few times here at SaaStock, and I met a lot of founders here, so I felt this can be a great moment for you to start a dialogue with investors, to open up the talks and to get to know a lot of investors, because in the time that we invested, you only spoke to 2 or 3 investors. And secondly, is also to test the water, given the insecurity in the market, and to test the appetite for, let's say, further growth stage investors for AG5. So then then you decided to go there. So you were here mid-October. What did you do? How did you deal with that? How do you?
Yeah, so as everyone, probably today I had booked 20 meetings. I had a slide deck of 3, 4, maybe 5 slides. And it was really funny what happened at those meetings, because first slide I put on the problem, I explained it to the person in front of me, and the reactions that I got at that moment were like, I felt that the investors were really interested in what we were solving, and they were really getting our solution. So that was already on slide 1. And I had a couple of other slides, but then I came to the last slide, and that was really funny what happened there. I showed them the metrics that we had last year at that point. And I did the ask question in the sense of, okay, if you look at these metrics, and we want to grow next year 2.5 to 3 times, what kind of amount would you put in our company? So I turned the question around. And the answer, they were like, okay. But everyone that I spoke to answered that question, and it was really funny what came out, because I had investors saying, okay, then you have to put at least, the biggest one was 15 million, the lowest was 3 million, but speaking to probably 20 people, the median was between 5 and 7. So what I found out here last year, I thought, okay, we need to go to the market around 6. And so I came back to peak, and I said, okay, I went to SaaStock. I think maybe we should run now, because I felt really that there was enthusiastic people. They wanted to come over to Amsterdam. And why should we wait 6 or 7 months if there is interest now and we can get 6 million out of the market? I was really convinced about that we could do that. So we said, let's do it, but
And before I recall, you were pretty skeptical, right? Before you went to SaaStock, you said, well, we just raised in May, it's now October, right? It's 4 months, 5 months later. Why should we raise another round? We don't need the money right now because we are growing at a very good pace, and given the fireworkers business, which was also, you could grow further with the same company, but then at SaaStock you really changed your opinion, right? So you were really...
Yeah, I was really, when I came back from these 2 days, I was on fire.
Yeah, I recall that you called me back from the airport, right? Really, I want to go now, Johan, now. Yeah. So what did you do to speed up that process? Because you were, I think, how big was your company at that time in terms of people?
15, I think 15 people.
15 people?
20. Yeah.
The revenue what you were doing was roughly?
We were 1.2.
1.2 million euros, right? Yeah, ARR. What did you do? Because then we decided to speed up that process. How did you speed up the process? Because everything was on your plate these days, right? Because you didn't have a proper financial guy, you didn't have, you have a lot of things on your plate. So what did you do on that end?
So when we came back, that was, so let's say 17, 18 October last year, we said if we want to run, then we need to have a lot of documents in place. I only had the deck here, like 5-6 pages, so I knew that I could do a lot of these information gathering, but I needed someone from finance. So one of your team members, Thijs, he really helped me to get all the financials correct. And we put, I think a few days later, a list, that just not the 20 people here, but a total list of 90 investors. We went through them on an afternoon and we said, okay, we're gonna target these 50. I did a reach out in the weeks after, and most of them I had an online meeting with them for a half hour. And we generated, also in that same period, we built a DocuSign, a virtual, how do you say that?
Data room.
Yeah, data room. So from those 50 that I contacted, 25 went into this data room. And that was a few weeks after SaaStock. And that is really interesting what happens then, because you have to see, I feel a little bit like a group of marathon people who are in there. And what is really interesting, what I never thought about if you do fundraising, is that all those people have also their own process, these investors. I never thought about that they want to meet us at the office and meet our whole team. I never thought about that they also have to go to their partners and go to their steering committee. And what you saw in this system, you could see how active they were. And it's that group, there were like 25, but there were like 5 or 6 were really active and asked me a lot of questions. They were heading off. But Piek explained to me, if you get one term sheet on your table, that's not enough. You make sure that you have if you have one, you should get 2 or 3 in the same days, you know. So if people start running and ask you a lot of questions, there are 2 or 3 in front, if they start dropping a term sheet, you have to make sure that the other ones also do that. And so, but they all have to run their own internal process. So you have to, if you talk to them, I talk a lot to them, I had to know where they were in their own process and where we are. And what happened then was that one of the guys was just in front and he called me on a Wednesday and said, okay, I want to discuss the term sheet. And I said, no, I don't want it now because the other ones are not up. So he was like, why don't you want to discuss? I said, okay, I want to see it, but you cannot send it to me. And so that was on a Wednesday. And then I said, because other people probably will send next week. So to keep that group together, and finally he sent it on Friday, and then there was a lot of pressure, because then you need to make sure that you get the other ones also in the next coming days. And what happened is we got like 3 on that Monday and Tuesday. But I think it could be even more if we had a little bit more timing. It went all very fast. But the good thing is we had 3 term sheets, Johan. And what did we do then when we had them on the table?
And perhaps interesting to learn for the people in the audience is, what did you do to get other players also in the same speed, right? So, because there were a few... Yeah. What did you do on that end? Because I recall that we were calling those weeks every day with each other to see where they stand. And what did you do to push them forward or to pull them back, right? To slow the speed?
I really said, okay, you have to speed up. If you want to be part of this journey, you really have to speed up your process because other people are already there or there in that stage. So, but sometimes it's really not possible. Even they want, sometimes they cannot get the steering committee together or the partners are not there. So, but I informed them all. And also I slowed down. They wanted to make an appointment. If they were going too quickly, I slowed down the appointments with a few days. So it was really getting this group together. And that was really, I think, the most stressful part of this whole process.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So then we ended indeed mid-December with 3 term sheets, right? And just for you to take a step back, right? So mid-October, Rick was here at SaaStock, right? So only 2 months after, we had three term sheets on the table, and we just had to start the process. So I think from that moment on, I think what we learned, because at that time, December last year, it was really restless in the market, right? There was a lot of insecurity. There was also, we as a VC, we hear that deals are being pulled back, and companies and VCs really took more time also to digest the data from the companies that they invest in, right? And also Headline, which invested eventually in AG5, really took that time, which was really good. I recall that in a few weekends we had calls with each other that they found something in the data room, right, and you had to dive into it, etc. So I think they did a great work on that end. I think also what they did really well, was really inspiring for me as an investor, is they gave you a list of potential co-investors to choose from, because when a VC joins your company, they will lead and they can do the full round, but as we all know, I think it helps if you have experienced entrepreneurs or people who know the space on your cap table and who also will co-invest. So they let you decide who to co-invest. So you had a few calls and you handpicked a few which joined the round. So I think it was also, for me, really interesting. And until the last moment of, let's say, the legal docs were signed, there was a lot of, let's say, insecurity. Also on our end, right? If the deal would go through. We had a little secondary at the end. One of the team members wanted to sell a few of the shares, which is always good for you to know as founders. It's a very delicate thing, and only please address it really at the final stages, because it causes a lot of, let's say, insecurity. Does that founder not believe the company anymore? And I recall that the last weekend that we signed, I think on a Friday, Thursday, and then that weekend, SVB Bank collapsed. You got a call from Headline about SVB Bank.
Yeah.
It's a funny story perhaps to end with. What happened there?
Yeah, they called me Headline. They said, "Hey Rick, how are you exposed to the SVB Bank?" And in Dutch means that the social security bank where you have your students' loans. So I thought, why does he want to know about my security loans? I did not know anything about US or so there was a lot of misunderstanding about. And then I found out that there was something wrong in the US. So, yeah, but that was okay.
Yeah, indeed. And that's why I think the last lesson learned is we have in Dutch an expression. I think the Dutch people hear it, which means that het is pas binnen als je het kunt pinnen. That's Dutch, sorry. But it means that the money is on the bank once you have it on the bank, right? And I think with this process, which was really tight, well done, Rick, again, because you managed to raise within 10 months after our initial investment, to raise from a good VC a really good amount also, and also at the right terms. But I think getting that process really straight, I think is the biggest learning.
Yeah, and I'm really, really happy looking now, we are now a little bit further, I'm really happy with Headline. I don't know if anyone from Headline here, but really happy that I have the same feeling as with PIC, that we really bring AG5 next step further. So yeah, thank you for your attention.